been smart business if they went straight into signing, I don't know, Zapata from Atalanta, or these kind of players who might have been available. I don't think that would have necessarily been the right way. I think that it's been very character driven. They've gone for players who want to play for the club, and for years we've heard people don't want to play for Newcastle because of where the geography is. And you mentioned Kieran Trippier and money there. He took a pay cut to come to Newcastle because he wanted to come back to the north of England. I know you might think that isn't true, but it is. That people want to play for the club. The project appeals to them, and I think that's put them in good stead. But like you said, the off the field side of it has to catch up. Getting the Champions League one-off will be a huge benefit for them, but I think to really benefit now, they're going to have to do that year on year.
You mentioned Howe's first pre-season with the team as being important, and I suppose that is borne out in the nature of their performances now. As you said, they are front foot. The physicality of this team is right up there with any team in the Premier League. Any number of performances. A lot of people might have seen the Manchester United game a couple of weeks ago at St James's Park. They ran all over Manchester United. It was just so stark, that difference in physicality. And married to the atmosphere at St James's Park, I would think it's a pretty phenomenal place to be covering football every week for you. It really is in sync, the atmosphere in the stands with the type of football they're playing. I don't know if Eddie Howe's been asked at any stage, did he try and play a style of football which would prompt that kind of reaction from the stands, or is it just a more organic, happy coincidence? I remember a couple of years ago, for instance, I think it was when Belgian manager, name's got out of my head, got relegated with Wigan, was one of Everton's managers, Martinez.
Roberto Martinez.
Yeah. When he was at Goodison, and Carragher was making the point, this style of football doesn't fit in with this crowd. It's just not going to work. Goodison is high tempo, high octane. That's just the way it has to be. And an Everton manager should recognise that. Be really curious if Howe's ever spoken about that issue at all.
Yeah, I think he did his research on the DNA of Newcastle United before he took the job. He grew up watching Kevin Keegan's teams. He actually spoke to Kevin Keegan before he took the job. He was one of the first people he spoke to, interestingly. But I think his style of play fitted that DNA anyway. You look at his Bournemouth teams, they might not have had the same profile in terms of media, but they were teams that would go toe-to-toe with the best in the business, and I think he was well suited in that regard. But the big thing for me, what's been so striking is defensively they've been so good that he went away during his break, and that defensive stability that Newcastle have, they're very few teams have conceded fewer goals in Europe than Newcastle in the top leagues, and that's given them a real foundation to build from. And I think him embracing that side of the game has really shown how he's evolved as a manager. He's still a young manager, and that's really been to Newcastle's benefit, because before he took charge, Newcastle's DNA was sitting back, inviting pressure, trying to nick a fluky goal against the top team. It's not what the fans wanted. They wanted a team that was willing to get in people's faces, and they're getting that now, and spades.
Yeah, and people can roll their eyes when you talk about DNA or what the fans want, but if you haven't been to St James's Park, then you could be a bit quick to write that off, and naively so. It is a reality of the football up there, and the defensive point is very well made as well, because that was a criticism of Howe at Bournemouth. So he seems to be in an extraordinary place. Everything about it seems to be good. They would be right back to most people's second favourite team again, were it not for where I'm going. So you're up there, Kieran. I'm judging by your accent, you're not a local lad.
Believe it or not.
Yeah. If you write for the Newcastle Chronicle, I don't know how often you've done it, for instance, but if you write a piece which is along the lines of everything is so good in so many ways, but to be honest, there is lots about the Saudi project that we should not feel good about, or we have to question, what tends to be the reaction? How visceral is it? What kind of truck does that line of thinking generate these days up in Newcastle?
The thing is, I think it's dangerous to go into writing something thinking about that. I think you have to write what you feel and what you believe in. So, for example, when the Saudi kit leaked last summer, I didn't feel comfortable with that. I wrote that, not thinking, I'm going to get pelters for that. I think it's dangerous to go down that road of what will people think. Personally, what I will say is Newcastle United fans are intelligent. You know, it isn't 52,000 people with, you know, tea towels on their heads. Like, I think sometimes people outside the region perceive them to be. They're smart people who are very aware of what's going on in Saudi Arabia. But we shouldn't judge them if they want to focus on the football as well. You know, it's their club. They didn't have a say on who was the owner before the Saudis came in. They don't have a say on who the owner is now. I think there's maybe a feeling for them that they feel like sometimes they're being ganged up on, and I think, you know, they can be wrongly painted sometimes. So this is a good platform just to get that across. But for me, you know, I think personally, you know, any time I've written pieces on the owners, you know, you want to make sure that you have that in mind, and, you know, you're thinking about what Amnesty have come out with. You're looking at the human rights abuses. You know, you wouldn't be a human being if you didn't do that.
Yeah. So I take the point in the fans. I've never seen any expression of unease about the owners at the games.
There have been outside the stadium, on the ground, yeah, there have been protest groups. But yeah, let's put it this way, when we did a poll here at the Chronicle before the takeover happened, it was, you know, 99% of fans were in favour of it.
Yeah.